This is the story of how I went from being a complete noob at game development to then making a Battlefield clone with tanks and aircraft.
Atrocious sounds they make that doesn't stop once leaving the beat. Every sound in the game is a pain to hear. The animation is a joke on its own, even if I'm going to pretend like the raptors aren't fucking hilarious.
And then finally releasing a game which was number 4 on the Steam free-to-play charts that looked like this.
Load! Yes!
No!
Holy moly. I remember
And got 500,000 downloads. Which, you know, I'll take that any day of the week. So it's July 2018, and with my reputation already well established on the iOS App Store with my games Top Down Fury and Gravit Maze, I decided I'd try my luck on releasing a game on Steam, and I started learning a new game engine called Unity. I stumbled across a Brackeys tutorial and got to work on my debut project, Micro, where the hook is that you're a big man in a micro world, fighting cyclopses without any real reason, or purpose, or meaning. Wishlist on Steam, please. And pretty quickly after posting 3 devlogs and realizing no one was interested, and I had no idea how to make a video game, I realized that if I wanted to be a big shot video game developer, I had 2 paths. I could learn Unity, or I could publish asset flips. My second title would be an asset flip, and I promise this isn't where the video is going, but that's how the story played out. So I browsed the Unity forums for free complete Unity projects, and I found this Chinese post titled Free Multiplayer Low Poly PUBG Unity Project, or shall I say, PUBG Yaoji Shangmu, and whipped out my dual-core arsenic-free 2010 MacBook with a whopping 2 GB of RAM, and I was off to the races. I spent 2 days translating the UI from Mandarin to English, and then I made some new maps and some new guns, and I titled this game Warcry. And I mean, there's a few videos about it, but I think to get the full experience we have to play it for ourselves, so let's pop it open. Now these graphics might have been top of the line in 2018, but computer hardware has evolved now, and I think to get the best experience, we're going to set the graphics to Ultra. And as you can see here, we're off to a pretty solid start. Now in Warcry, you can play as a variety of different classes, such as Soldier, Farmer, Salaryman, and Police. And you can play on a total of 1 map, which I made myself by the way, and it's aptly called Desert. And it wasn't a bad game, at least compared to Micro, but most of the work wasn't even done by me, so I can't take credit for it. It did around 7,000 downloads on itch.io and GameJolt, and got about $50 in donations, which is pretty impressive. But when people started calling me out on making an asset flip, I sort of had enough. So it was time to learn my beloved Unity game engine for real. Paint Warfare time. I searched up how to make a multiplayer FPS in Unity, and I found this masterpiece.
Hello everyone and welcome to the first video on creating a multiplayer FPS in Unity. So this is a subject requested by so many of you guys, and I thought I would finally go ahead and cover this.
But unlucky for me, I was a couple years too late, and Unit was deprecated. And then I found Photon Pun, which is a plugin that makes multiplayer, at least relatively, easier for a idiot like me. My goal was to make my dream game, Paint Warfare. It would have huge maps, 4 classes of guns, trucks, planes, and tanks, and best of all, it would be paintable. And why would this be better than something like Battlefield? Are you even listening to yourself? I was a big shot professional game developer, and my game was gonna have paint. The tanks would shoot paint, the bazookas would shoot paint, and the grenades, paint. I mean, it was true to the title. It was going to be all-out paint warfare. And I was pretty dedicated, so a surprising 1 month later, as a solo dev, this is what I had. And I know this might look not very impressive to you, but it was all my work, so I was proud of it. By the way, this was actually my last devlog for 2 years, because I hated the way my voice sounded.
Are you losing health from this? How much? Like a lot?
Probably rightfully so. Now you may be wondering, how did I make maps like this? Well, I didn't have any money, so I got asset packs. Anyways, I improved Paint Warfare over time. Oh yeah, watermark that shit. people are gonna steal your footage. I mean, I added tanks and vehicles, explosives, even planes. I was really going until finally tragedy caught up with me and struck my game. Yeah, I had no idea how to fix this, despite my humongous level of expertise, and I was devastated. But this is nothing compared to what's coming up later. After a short break making tutorial videos, I got back on the grind making my new game, Paint Warfare Remastered. Now my goal was simple. It was to make a better game with nicer UI, less bloom, bigger maps, better gun systems, and I even picked up Blender to make original maps on my own. And this time I would publish whatever I created on Steam. Now this was a massive task, especially for a professional with 7 months of experience in the Unity game engine like me, and I gave myself 1 year to do it. Yeah, it only goes downhill from here. I wanted to release it by Christmas of 2019, and it was 1st of January 2019, and I had no game. But luckily for my work on Warcry and the old Paint Warfare, I'd met some pretty cool people.
Oh no, Mini's here!
There was Southern Wolf and Farmer One, who made models for my game, and I even made an alliance with a YouTuber called Private Cookie, who had a pretty decent following. Southern and I quickly pushed out a basic weapon system, I learned web development and made a website, and after about 8 months we had a fully working game with 2 maps. And these 2 maps were a flooded desert and a snow map. And by around October we of course had different vehicles like tanks, boats, and armored trucks. And 4 months before release I put together our very first trailer. Now if you have a keen eye, it may look a bit off, and that is because the entire trailer is animated. None of it is gameplay. The reason? Well, there's 2. Number 1 was I was using a fairly new, but still weak, dual-core MacBook Air, which struggled to run the game, let alone record it at the same time. So I had to write a tool to run the game at 5 FPS and render this frame by frame, and not even in HD. It was in 720p. But number 2 was that pretty much no one knew about the game at the time. Our Discord server only had about 150 members, and of all those people I couldn't get enough people online to record a trailer, so that sucked I guess. So I hand animated fictional gunfights and fake epic tank battles. I had no choice, come on, don't blame me. By some miracle, on December 2nd, 2019, we had 157 wishlists, and after all the refunds were done, we ended up gosh, I sound like such a scammer. So we ended up selling 139 copies, which at $5 is half a month's wage in Poland.
Here comes the money!
And then the reviews came in. Yeah, people absolutely tore my game to shreds.
No matter how interesting your game idea sounds on paper, if the execution is shit, it's shit. Introducing Paint Warfare, a game I consider to be the perfect analogy to it.
So then I had 2 choices. I could either get better or bitter. Well, actually I was in denial because I just spent 2 years of my life on this. But after that, I chose to get better. Now, I'm an honest businessman, and out of respect for the people who paid money for this game, for another 7 months I released constant updates, shaping the game based on the community's feedback. I met a sound designer and musician named Vern, as well as bought some more sound effects with the profits I'd made, created new maps, polished the movement and gunplay, and by this point the game had actually grown into something worthwhile playing. I was really trying to make the game into something fans would enjoy. Now I wish this was where the story gets all happy, and like the game blows up and everyone loves it, but the truth is the game never really grew outside of the initial 100 players, despite all my efforts to try to improve it and listen to the community's feedback. And so by August of 2020, I made it free to play and stopped working on it. But from this point, I still had an undeterred dream of making a game people would love. And so I made a 3rd Paint Warfare. My goal was simple. Let me sit you down for a second. I wanted better combat, maps, more modes, nicer movement, multiplayer bots, or a single player campaign. I wanted to ditch the war theme and just make a goofy paintball game, less bugs, a bigger launch, and some kind of multiplayer bots, so that even if there is absolutely no one online, the game should still be fun. Now the project was kinda falling apart at this point, all the old modelers left, so it was only really just me and Vern, but still I kept learning. I started learning about game design and put together a doc outlining the mistakes I made with the old Paint Warfare and how I would make tangible improvements in the new game. And the first thing I worked on were the props for the brand new Dunes map, which even 3 years later is fairly similar to how it was when I made it. And meanwhile, the project was growing, because the game was now free to play on both itch.io and Steam, and I started funneling all these people into our Paint Warfare official Discord server. And within, I kid you not, 1 month after making this map, I had the gameplay fully made, and the first devlog on my channel. I'm telling you, I was committed.
Just see if you can spot the difference.
I die a little bit listening to my voice back then, but it is what it is. But yeah, by this point we had a pretty cool game. We had all the OG features like the shotgun pistol, AK, Dunes map, orange, grenade jumping, all the stuff like that, even options menu. Now, if you have a keen eye, you may have noticed that I took just a little bit of a different design philosophy with this one, which I eventually leaned into more and more. Instead of making a war FPS and hence competing with games like Ravenfield or Battlefield, I would really lean into this fast-paced, movement-based game idea I had, where you could grenade and rocket jump, run really fast, climb anything you want, and to complement this, I made these super goofy beans, which eventually evolved over time with creative hats and eventually this costume system, so I could monetize the game and earn money to pay for development. Now, by learning about game design, I started orienting the game mechanics towards nudging the player to use the movement and take risks, such as by intentionally having no movement inaccuracy when you're running, or no inaccuracy when you're unscoped with the sniper, which makes charging into battle with the sniper just as favorable, if not better, than just camping in a building and sniping people. Instead of hiding in a corner and regenerating health over time when you don't take damage, like most other games, in Paint Warfare I made it so you only regenerate HP by killing people like a vampire. The respawns were faster, so dying wasn't as punishing, and I even made explosives wallbang, so our players would easily punish people who camped in buildings. Very quickly I published this on both Steam and itch.io, and although the game didn't have enough players most of the day, we now had a sizable enough community that people would play with friends.
Welcome to Paint Warfare, a game where you can legally shoot at people with a paintball gun, which kinda look like real guns now that I think about it, and my god is it fun.
Or we could arrange tournaments where everyone would get on at once and we'd play.
No! And that's what he killed me.
I soon added stuff like bots disguised as players, which were pretty stupid and in hindsight pretty obvious. New maps, new guns. I added a ranking system, bubble grenades, and even this early dash, which is the first ever ability added to Paint Warfare, and is the basis for the ability system we have now. What was still fairly upsetting to me though, was that although the game was growing, it was growing really slowly. And even with free to play, we still didn't have enough players to sustain servers. And this was by the start of February 2022, which is a whole 4 years into this project. So as a final gift to the community, I changed the game from early access to released, fixed some bugs, made some new features, and just left the game for a few weeks. Little did I know, from being on early access and free to play for over 2 years, the game had gathered over 10,000 wishlists, which I don't even know why people do. Like, the game's free, just add it to your library. Why wishlist it? But we had 10,000 wishlists, and with this number of wishlists, the Steam algorithm just went completely crazy. It started promoting this game on the Steam homepage. The fuck? In fact, it was number 4 in the Steam free-to-play section. Not even FPS games, just all Steam free-to-play games. For 1 week straight, it was number 4. The game had completely blown up. This game! By the time I had realized what was going on, the game was overrun by hackers, the servers were capped out, and due to bad reviews, the downloads had started to gradually slow down. I had essentially lost a lot of players because the game just wasn't ready for such a huge jump in popularity.
Why do I pay? Have fun. To improve.
But now, with full game servers and a community of people who actually were enjoying the game a lot, I finally had the motivation to continue working on the game and improve it. I started working on anti-cheats, upgraded the servers, translated the game into new languages, and even released the second DLC to get some money. Made new maps, new guns, new features. In fact, I was releasing content at such a rate that the game was constantly buggy and even sometimes broken for days at a time, which in hindsight was a mistake, but I didn't mind. We did community events on our Discord, where I'd add crazy features like UFO boss fights.
This UFO is lagging the shit out of the server.
Yeah.
Alex is just
Oops. Yeah, let's try to go further.
alright, well I can
Alright, again.
No.
Pasted literal Minecraft maps, and evolved my devlogs. And this guy, Vern, came in clutch once again, pumping out hundreds of juicy sound effects for different guns and different actions. The game was evolving quick into something I was really proud of. That was until the downloads plummeted, but that never really deterred me. I kept updating the game with stuff like teleport guns, freeze guns, water guns, flamethrowers, new maps, a full ability system, and even leaning into team-based and cooperative modes like Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, or Point Capture, all of which I have really interesting devlogs about. But about a year later, in total, over 500,000 people have Paint Warfare in their Steam library, which is a number I'm really proud of. Did I make a lot of money? Not really, at least not directly, but I fulfilled my dream of making a game that I was really proud of and that people enjoyed, so I called that a success. And also being an inspiration for other people to start their game dev journey, such as through my other channel, and that's what matters to me. If you want to play Paint Warfare, the link is below. It's completely free. And if you like this devlog and you want more, I'll link the best ones right here. Thanks so much for watching, have a sick day,